Hi everybody and welcome back. In this episode of the TT120 challenge layout, Walmington Riverside, we're going to look at weathering the track. We've got the wall in place now, all glued on, so we now have that located. The track is wired, so it's time to start the progress of that part. This isn't the ballasting episode. I want to get the platform in along here first. What I'm going to take you through here is the different colours I'm going to use and the differences that you're going to expect to see on a railway line, because it's not just everything's one colour. It doesn't work that way. It's metal, it's been there different ages, it gets different amount of use, it gets whilst it all gets rained on the same, it may be near the sea, so it's salty, and all these different factors create different colours on the rail itself. So I'm just going to take you through some of that aspect of the rail weathering that I'm going to do. Right, so what colours are we going to paint? Well, we're going to look at the different areas first. Firstly, we have the main line that comes in here into this main platform here. This will be the most commonly used line. So the rust and dirt on the rails on that line tends to get renewed more often, because you'll get a shiny coat on the top of the railhead, you'll get a shower of rain, that'll sit on top, train will come along, it'll mesh in the top of the rail, it'll get a bit of rust in the water which runs down the side of the rail, and that will be a light colour. And for that I have here my rail match sleeper grime colour, sorry, frame dirt. Sleeper grime will go on all the sleepers, but you get a frame dirt colour. Now the bay platform here, because it's predominantly a DMU base layout, will get less use, so I will go with something like this Humbrol number 70. It's a slightly darker brown colour because there's less washing of the rusty water that sits on top of the rail being washed down the side. The runaround loop, because it gets used a bit more often than the bay platform, I'll go with a slightly lighter Humbrol 113 for example. And then down at the dead end here, which is the dead end spurt which gets used the least, rails get rusty really dark because there's not a lot of movement on it, there's no fresh rust, it's just old rust, and that gets quite dark, almost black colour. So I'm going to use this Humbrol 160, really dark brown. So the other colours I've got is sleeper grime, which I shall put mainly over the main running line, but I'll probably paint it over everything sleeper wise, because what I'll do is the lesser used lines I'll get a bit of a grey wash possibly afterwards, just to tone those sleepers a bit more grey old wood colour. And what I also have is some rail match brake dust. Now this stuff you have to put on really lightly, and it does actually tone things in. So towards the main line, that end, I might just overspray a little bit as I come in towards the station. following day, and I'm going to use my Badger 20+ year old general purpose airbrush with my rail match frame dirt enamel paint, and I'm just going to wash over everything to cover the grey primer from yesterday. I believe I've used this whole jar already. I'm going to have to go and add some more. Now that I've got everything all generally sprayed over in the frame dirt colour as a base, I cleaned the top of the rails, and this highlighted an issue with the Peco points. Now what I'm going to show you is just a little thing worth bearing in mind. Now, very nice set of points, and on the back here is the tie bar. Now if you can see, you just got the tiniest little bit of metal poking through the tie bar with a little fold in it, which is what secures the blades to the tie bar. Now, because I've got this on foam and the points aren't flat on the board like that, these parts, the tie bars, are unsupported, and I had an issue with this set of points here where I was holding it down while I gave the rail heads a scrub, and the point blade just popped out. Now the problem is, now that I've got it down and soldered all in place and everything else, you can't get to the back of the tie bar to fit it on again. So all I've been able to do to secure these blades back in is my super strong super glue is feed the bottom of the blade back through the slot and put a big dollop of super glue on there. Hopefully it will be enough. But what I had noticed was it become notchy in operation, and a tiny bit of super glue had got onto the slide down here next to the bar, and that was preventing smooth operation of the point. However, now it is sliding freely and cleanly. Hopefully this has now got sufficient secureness, but what I'm going to have to do before I actually put the ballast in is under the point tie bar here, just put a packer in there just so you can't push it down too much. Some of these this one's going to be tight because the operating wire is on this side, so I can't actually slide underneath, but that's not a you problem, that is a me problem. But it's something to bear in mind that there's not a lot of strength in that little tiny fold in the metal to hold the blades in if you push too hard down on the point. So even though it's all in one colour, what I did, I went across the top while it was still soft, the paint, and I wiped over with a tissue with enamel thinners on things. This is enamel rail match paint, and as the sleepers were primed in that grey, if you remember, because the paint hadn't fully cured, as I've scrubbed the top of the rail head, it's just taken some of the brown off and has allowed some of the grey primer to sort of show through as highlights. Not what I was planning, but nevertheless it's a useful little bit of colour. So I'm going to start with this 160 dark brown. It's a Humbrol acrylic, so it's going to be easy to apply. Now I'm going to give it a bit of a mix up. So having given it a a bit of a stir. Yeah, I'm just going to get this number 2 brush, if that means anything to anybody. Number 2 is just a small soft brush. Try and find the best way to see. Dry brush along here. And it's just a slightly different tone. Don't really have to dry brush, I suppose. Just can you see that difference there? Yeah, you can see the difference. And I'm going to do just the ends. This end here. And then all along this one. So the next one I'm using is number 70. It's a slightly lighter colour. And now, as this is a slightly lighter colour, I'm going to use this on the tracks that are used slightly more than the dead end siding here. So like the bay platform and the run round loop won't be used for everything, but will get used less than the main running line but more than the siding. So for this part I'm just going to, again, and to be honest, I'm not going to even bother with the dry brushing. I'm just going to gently just go around. So again, you've got another different colour. Colours is textures, is what makes a difference. So we just spread that out. Where's Bob Ross when you want him? I'm sure Bob Ross would have fun doing this sort of thing. So you can see the slight difference in colour variation. And again, on the far out. Now, just bear in mind here, check rails will be darker because they don't actually get run on, so that's just old rust on check rails. But because basically what affects it is the fine rust on top of a railhead getting washed off when it's wet and a train rolls over, and then it gets washed down the side, as well as obviously age, how long the rail was been down, and being a little used branch line, that's going to be down there for a while. The last colour I'm going to try is 113, and I'm going to use that from the head shunt straight down the main platform, because that would be the platform that gets the most use on a daily basis. Now the last colour went on quite bright but did fade down nicely as it dried, so don't panic. And again, if you're not happy with the colours, you can always go over it again. And what we don't need is perfect coverage, because we don't want that. We're doing a weathered finish. So just brush it on. I'm not going to say haphazardly, but you know what I mean. It's definitely easier without the camera right next to me. So again, I shall continue along there, and then we'll show you the final result. And because it's just acrylics on top of the metal here, it's just cleaning. I just go along with the fingernail and just scrape it off the top. It just peels off. And that's another reason for priming everything, the sides of the rails and everything, to give the acrylic paint something to cling on to. Otherwise it'll just peel off the sides of the rail exactly the same as what it is for the rest of it. And the final step is some sleeper grime. I'll say final step, but the final step for currently for this video is some sleeper grime. Now this will be dry brushed, and also I'm going to use, appropriate for the size of the track, a wide flat brush, and I am literally going to paint it vertically like this, because I don't want to paint the sides of the rail. I just want to do the tops of the sleepers, just to blend it in finally. So again, from above, just dry off the brush and just I'm not putting much on at all, I'm just blending the sleepers together where I've got some paint on top. And that's it. I'll bring you down so we can have a proper look at the finished result. So there we have the variations in the colour throughout the layout. In a later video we'll put the ballast down and then we'll add some more finer weathering colours. There we go, and that's how I basically weather my rails, preparing for ballasting and everything else. So hopefully some of this has been useful to you. If not, and you've made it this far anyway, awesome, thanks guys, and catch you in a later video where we will ballast the track. So on that note, see you soon, catch you later, bye for now.